How's it going, everyone? This is Phone Gaming Connoisseur, and welcome back to this Let's Play of Mortal Online Season 4. Alright, so this is the version 1.87.01.00, and so today I want to continue with my new player progression guide, which I started several years back. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I've come to the realization that I think that there are many new players who might need a bit more guidance on the basics, the first few days or first few hours of their time in this game, and so today I've decided to cover a little bit about PvP. Now, for those of you who have been following my channel for quite some time, for years or something like that, you might be wondering why am I covering about PvP, especially when I don't really PvP all that much and I'm not really an expert in PvP. However, I do want to I guess show new players some of the things I've learned in relation to PvP that I've learned over the years. And so one thing that I think a lot of new players will run into in their first few hours, or maybe even their first few days, is what I would call priest camping, or getting repeatedly ganked at the priest. Now, I've seen some threads going up on the forums from time to time about some players who yeah, I don't know whether this is I think this guy's just suiciding over and over. Let me just see the loot bags here. Yeah, it seems like, no? Okay, so I think it's several different people's. Okay, so these are mostly his. So anyway, the priest camping. Oh, so he has resurrected. What are they doing? So, with the priest camping, what happens is, when you get killed, especially when you're out in the wild where there are no guards, when there are no guards, then a red or a group of greys can stand around the priest, and if you died and you resurrected at the same priest where the killers are, where the player killers are, then they can easily just kill you over and over. And so that has led some players to quit or lash out in frustration over getting killed over and over by the same group of players at the same priest. Now, I did say, there was a thread on the forums, and I did add my own opinion, my own thoughts on when people keep doing this, when new players keep resurrecting at the same priest and getting killed over and over. I've likened it to when you walk in the woods, in the forest, and you step on a bear trap. You feel the pain and you reel back and you look at the bear trap and it's caught your foot. So you take your foot out of the trap, and then naturally a person who has been caught in a trap and has felt the pain, naturally they would sidestep or try to disarm the trap. But when you keep resurrecting at the same priest over and over, and you get killed over and over, and you're lashing out in frustration, or you decide to quit, it's a bit like you walking over the same trap over and over again, hoping that the next time you walk over it, the trap won't snap shut on you, which of course it does. So, it does take a bit of thinking. It does take a bit of you thinking it through, that maybe resurrecting at the same priest isn't the right way to go. Maybe you need to think of an alternative solution, and that's what this game is all about. Sometimes when this game is all about you surviving using your wits and using your ability to come up with solutions and come up with your own way to I suppose, get yourself out of predicaments that are not conducive to your character's good health and well-being. This is hilarious. I mean, I don't know what this guy is doing, but he's just suiciding over and over. But, you know, it is, you know, when you keep resurrecting the same priest and you get killed over and over by the same group of killers, it's a bit like you just deciding to walk over the same bear trap over and over again, hoping that the next time you walk over it, it won't snapshot on you and you can continue on your way. That's not really going to happen, and it's the same in Mortal Online. You know, if you keep resurrecting the same priest, then you can expect to be killed over and over, because there are some players who play this game as if they're playing Quake, and they're not really out here to play roleplay, you know, in the way that some people might expect them to. You know, there are some players who want to see a bit more role playing, or at least some sort of reason, a logical or plausible reason for player killers to kill other players. But, you know, some players play this game solely for the PvP. You know, they do it just to it's their own way of playing the game, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that when you're a new player, you need to learn how to get around that. And so one thing that I would suggest for new players is that you resurrect at a different priest. As a ghost, you can see where all the priests are by the red markers that appear when you're in the ether world. So, you know, one thing that I would suggest is that you resurrect at a different priest a bit further away. If you're in Marlin, then there's plenty of priests to choose from. But if you're in Sarukar, then, well, that's an entirely different story. You might have to try to somehow escape once you resurrect at the priest, or somehow, you know, travel out of the area and try and resurrect out of another priest that's further away from the priest that you are in, that you are at in Sarukar. So that's one way. Or another way is you can wait a while, you know, maybe, I don't know, move to another area and just, well, I suppose you can also just wait at the priest and just wait for maybe a few minutes, because if you wait a while, then the killers that were here, that were surrounding the priest, waiting for you to resurrect, they might leave. After a while, they might leave and go somewhere else, and that's when you can resurrect. But if that doesn't work, then, well, yeah, you know, I've been in situations where I've been, you know, surrounded by, I suppose, you know, player killers, and, you know, each time when I get killed by player killers, I learn something, and so that's what you have to do as well. Like I mentioned in my previous video on the new player progression guide, you do need to learn. You know, each time you die or you make a mistake, you know, don't just, you know, let it go, but try and learn something from that. Try and learn why why that mistake happened, and why you know, why you lost things, or you know, why you died. You know, at least try and learn something from it, because mistakes are not made in vain if you learn from them. So every time something bad happens, you know, try and learn from that, because the more you learn, the better you'll get at playing this game, and the less mistakes you'll make in future, and the longer you'll survive. Okay, so just bear that in mind. Okay, and another thing as well, and this is the ether world, is that when you die, try and avoid being attacked by other players who are also in the ether world, especially if you're grey. Because if you don't know this, if you're grey in the ether world and another player comes along, they can attack you, they can drain your cow. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it, but K-A-U, cow. It's a bit of a funny term that SV has made, but basically it's your spirit energy or spirit life when you're in the ether world, and when that gets drained, then you are expelled from the ether world, and you appear and you resurrect automatically at the nearest priest. You're forced to resurrect. And so if you're grey, then, you know, try and hide, because if you get your cow drained and you're forced to resurrect, and let's say if you're resurrected at the priest where there are a lot of guards, or whether a lot of other players who are waiting to kill newly resurrected grey players or reds, then you could find yourself getting killed instantly, or ganked by large groups of players and then sent right back into the ether world. And then the same players who drained your cow in the ether world, they'll be waiting for you, and then they can keep draining your cow, force you to resurrect, and the cycle repeats. So you could essentially find yourself getting killed in the world of the living, and then getting drained in the ether world, and then getting killed again repeatedly. So that's another thing that you need to watch out for. So if you turn grey and you get killed and you end up in the ether world, try and hide somewhere. Hide until your social status flag turns blue. Okay, and so I'm just going to go a little bit out into the wild. Now, like I said, this video isn't really about the art of PvPing, because like I said, I'm not much of a PvPer. In fact, the only time I PvP is in self-defense. Oh, look at this alert tower. Okay, so another guild has built a. I'm just going to see whether this has mercenary mages on it. I hope it doesn't, but if it does, built it right next to Tindrum. And I don't know if this is going to turn me grey if I walk into it. That's why I'm not going to, because so it's TD Twister. Okay, alright, so one thing that you should remember when you're out in the wild, and I suppose this is an extension of what I mentioned in the last video in the new player progression guide, is long range situational awareness. So when you're traveling out in the wild, you need to be constantly looking out in front of you, trying to spot any movement, because in this game, or at least in the current engine, what do I hear? Oh, I think it's those players who are dying at the priest. So anyway, so in this game, in the current engine that this game is running on, when you're close enough to see another player, they will first appear in a very long distance, and you can see the shape of a player, and if they're mounted, they'll be moving really, really fast. And so when that happens, you need to take immediate action. Especially if you're in the wild, I would highly recommend that if you're traveling out in the wild, that you avoid any contact, any encounter with anyone, especially those that you don't know, especially with strangers, even if they're blue. Unless, of course, the player is wearing worn short sword and using heavy robes, then you could probably approach that player. But even then, that player could be a spotter. So that's why I say that if you're in the wild, try and avoid any sort of encounter, avoid any sort of contact with other players. And that's because in the wild there are basically no guards. When you're out in the wild, there are no guards to come to your rescue if you get jumped by player killers or would-be player killers. There's none of that out there. So when you're out in the wild, you're on your own. And my philosophy has always been prevention is better than cure. I would rather avoid any sort of contact with other players out in the wild, rather than risking contact and then as it turns out the player is out to get you. So that's my approach, that's my philosophy to traveling. And now you might have a different approach, and that's perfectly fine, but I'm just giving you my perspective on how I normally conduct myself when I'm out in the wild, and that approach has served me very well, at least for me. And you know, you might find that find the value in that, you know, avoiding contact with other players. And so yeah, that's one tip that I want to offer to all new players, is that if you're going to go out, always be overlooking out in front of you. You know, don't, you know, just look at what's in your surroundings, immediate surroundings, but look at what is in front of you, what is out in front of you, you know, 100 meters, 200 meters ahead. Because the sooner you spot other players, then the sooner you can take evasive action, the sooner you can avoid being seen, and the sooner you can, you know, make for cover, you know, hide, and, you know, avoid any unfavorable encounters, because it could potentially happen out in the wild. I mentioned this in another video. Basically, I would say that 7 or 8 times out of 10, the encounters that you find that you have in the wild are hostile. 7 or 8 times out of 10, and that's a pretty high ratio. And that's speaking from experience. You know, the other 3 or 2 out of 10, usually they are benign travelers or haulers, just out to, yeah. You know, there's 3 or 2 out of 10, you know, they're mostly benign travelers, you know, who are just going about their business. So, but, you know, 7 or 8 times out of 10, they are hostile. So that's why I say avoid encounters in the wild whenever possible. And if you are mounted, then try and get away, get out of line of sight or sight range as quickly as possible, and throw them off. And, and, you know, like I said, you know, in this game it pays to have not just situational awareness, but long range situational awareness, because both will come in handy. And just now you saw that player, I think that was 0 death. And so I just want to show you several options that I think you should, yeah, just want to show you some options that I think would come in handy. Where is that option? I think it's in sound. Make sure you have play footsteps and play own footsteps turned on. I don't know, if you don't want this on, you can turn it off, but personally I have both of these turned on, and I have my sound volume up to 100. And the reason why I say this is because in this game you need to be able to, you know, use your audio visual senses. You know, you need to see what's around you, you need to hear what's around you. So just now I heard the horse hooves galloping, and you know, it was coming from behind me, and I turned around and saw that player. And so that's why I say it's important to have this option turned on, is so that you can hear other players' footsteps, and you can take you know, appropriate action, whether that be evasive or defensive, whatever that case may be. You know, it's important that you be able to hear other players' footsteps. And another option that I would say you should turn on is, let me find that. God, I don't think it's here. Yeah. Okay, so it's this one here. Allow attacks against blue players. I think, personally speaking, I would have this enabled, because when you start the game, I think by default it is disabled. And so what happens is that if this is disabled, then when you accidentally hit or intentionally hit a blue player, then you will get a pop-up window appear on your screen, and you put away your weapon. And it takes, I think, 1 or 2 seconds, or maybe even 3 seconds, for you to click on that window and draw your weapon again. And so that, I find that to be rather inconvenient, and it's a nuisance. And, you know, personally, I don't think that it's a, you know, I just don't think that it's a good option by SV to add this option, but you know, it is their game, and you know, I have my own opinions about this option here. And personally, I don't like you know, artificial safety switches. I always, you know, when I started playing this game back in 2010, there was no, you know, this option didn't exist. So if you accidentally hit another blue player, or you know, like a target that you didn't want to hit by accident, then you bore the consequences of that. And if a player was what do you call, there's a term for that, I think it's blue blocking. Yeah, blue blocking. So what happens, you know, before this option was introduced, sometimes if you're in the graveyard, or you know, some area where a lot of players congregate, then what some players would do is that they wait for you to swing your sword, and then they jump in front of your sword, so you end up hitting them instead of the target that you were intending to hit. And if they're blue, then that turns you grey, and if there are guards around, then they can immediately take you out, whack you, or the player who jumped in front of your sword would start attacking you, and because you're grey, so you're free game. And so I think that's why SV introduced that option, is to, I suppose, I don't know, partly it's to allow new players to not be targets of that blue blocking, and also I think it's, yeah, I don't know, I really don't understand the reason why SV introduced this option. I really don't like it, but you know, like I said, this is their game and they can do whatever they want with it, but I just don't like it, you know. And this is one of the things that I don't like about the game, is that, you know, there's artificial switches that yeah, I just don't like it. It's not necessary, and it's counterproductive, in my opinion. So yeah, so enable those two options, play footsteps, and enable allow attacks against blue players, because my personal approach is that if you can get used to controlling when you release your swing, then you won't need that option to be turned off. You won't need that option to protect you from blue blockers. And me personally, I've only been a victim of blue blocking, I think 2 times, or maybe even 3. I think it's 2. I think I've been a victim of blue blocking 2 times in the entirety of my playtime in this game. So I learned very early on that that I need to be careful, and I need to time my attacks very precisely. Every single attack needs to be timed. Just as in real life, you know, if you're, you know, in a situation where there are a lot of players around, you know, where there are a lot of other people around, and you're wielding a deadly weapon, then you need to be careful, because if you're in a war and you hit your own fellow soldier, your fellow comrade, then you know, you're basically doing the enemy's work for them. And so just as in real life, you should be careful, you know, when how you time and when you time your attacks. So, you know, I would rather treat this game, you know, just as in real life when you swing a weapon, rather than have some sort of artificial switch, you know, to prevent me from accidentally hitting a blue player. So that's just me. You could decide to turn it off, but that's up to you. Oh, Kodiak, Kulok. All right. So I hope that. So I think I've covered quite a bit just on the aspect of PvP without going into PvP itself. And one other thing that I want to mention as well is, I suppose this is a very subjective thing, but when you're playing this game, and especially because this game is first person only, there's no third person view, and there's no you know, like an in-game map of any sort, you know, it pays to have, you know, it pays to be intuitive. I think have your own inner intuition. Let's say you're in an area where there are a lot of you know, heavily armored and heavily armed guys, and there are no guards around, then that's a time when you need to you know, who's this player? Oh. Oh, what are you doing? Okay. Hello. Nice armor. Yeah, I don't know what that player was casting. So. Having fun PvPing. No. But I am. What a coincidence. He's asking me, am I having fun PvPing? I just happened to be making a video on the subject of PvP. So, on them. It's nice to meet on them. So as I was saying, well, what was I saying? So if you're in an area where there are a lot of heavily armored and heavily armed guys and there are no guards around, then you need to ask yourself the question, is it safe for me to be here? Is it safe for me to linger around here longer than is necessary? Because let's say you needed to go to Kranesh, or maybe go to another city or town that's not guarded, and you see a whole bunch of heavily armed guys, then your inner intuition might say to you, it's probably best to get out of here. It's probably best to just leave and get away from this area as soon as possible, as fast as possible, because you never know. That group of players could just decide that you're an easy meat, easy target, and they could just decide to take you out, and they could. Even in a guarded town, if a large group of players decided that they want to take you out, then there's really not much that's going to stop them. I mean, even with a whole bunch of guards standing around, it would take them, I'd say 4 or 5 seconds, maybe a little bit less, to take out all of the killers, but in 4 or 5 seconds they can basically take you out very easily. If they all surrounded you and they all took turns at hitting you, then you could be dead within 3 or 4 seconds, well before the guards can even take out all of them. And I've seen this happen in a video where a group of RPK players, they sneaked into this area, into the bank, and they started killing. I think they took out 3 or 4 players inside the bank before all the guards overwhelmed them and killed them all. So yeah, even in a heavily guarded town like Tindrum, there's no assurance or guarantee of safety. You could essentially still risk getting killed inside the bank, as it were. And so yeah, don't take things for granted in this game. This is a hardcore free-for-all PvP full looting game, and you should be aware of that. Before you started, even before you downloaded this game, you should be aware that this is a game that doesn't hold your hand and doesn't forgive you for your mistakes. In fact, it punishes you severely and forces you to learn from your mistakes, and that's how you learn, and that's how you get better at surviving and get better at not dying and losing your stuff. So it's if you're a new player, then you could save yourself a lot of headache and hassle if you learn these tips and advice. And again, if you're wanting to learn about PvP, how to PvP, how to swing your weapon and all of that, you might want to find a guild or a player who's willing to take you take you through the ropes and teach you how to PvP, and hopefully they're trustworthy, and hopefully they're not going to lead you out of town and then gank you and then take all your stuff. Yeah, so be careful who you trust, like I mentioned in the previous video. And so be careful who you trust. Don't tell people where you're going, and definitely don't tell people where you are in the help chat or in the local chat, and definitely don't do a yell saying, oh, I'm going out, I'm going to, you know, Fabrinum or whatever. Don't tell people where you're going. And I would say, even in town, and here's another tip, guys, if you're new and if you're not aware, if you're going to go out, be careful who is around you, and pay attention to who might be on the roofs. And I suppose this could be an extension of being situationally aware and having that inner intuition. Let's say if you're going to go out and you see a player standing overhead, you know, in the second floor, and they're looking at you, you know, pay attention to your inner intuition that could be telling you that that player could be a spotter, and they could be communicating your name, and you know that you could be going out of Tindrum. They could be communicating that information to their teammates out there, hiding out in the hills, just not far away from the Tindrum gates. So pay attention to who is around in the area, and if you see someone who might be a spotter, you know, who you think it might be a spotter, then what I would suggest is that you take a detour, try and distract their attention, try and make it as though that you're not going out. And this is what I do sometimes as well. When I see that there's a lot of players in the Central Plaza area outside the bank, what I would do is I would take another way. You know, sometimes I might leave Tindrum through the arena exit. What I would do is I would oh, what is this? Okay, so it's a bunch of guards. So alternatively, what I would do is I would come through this area, and then I would come through this walkway and then try and stay close to the walls, and then leave, sticking close to the walls and then leave. You do whatever you have to do to not show people that you are leaving. At least make it hard for people to see that you are leaving. No, it's not foolproof, you know, because I think sometimes people can see you even then, but at least it's less obvious and less visible than if you were to, you know, walk out of here, you know, in the middle of the Central Plaza walkway. I think if you stick to the sides, then, you know, sometimes it might, you know, you might not be so visible. And you know, if there are other players following behind you, you know, if they're going out as well, then, you know, one thing I would do is I would try and back myself to a wall here and wait for them to leave, and hopefully they haven't spotted you, and wait for them to all, you know, be out of sight before you leave yourself. Because if they're, you know, if they are out for PvP, you know, some players might be going out, you know, they're bored and they might want to go out for PvP, and they're looking for any targets of opportunity, then you don't want to be that target of opportunity. And so you want to wait for them to be out of sight range before you go out. And a lot of this is just basic self-preservation instinct, and a lot of it is some of it is common sense, I would say, you know. What the okay, they're in the same guild. I wonder what this guild is. What's the name of this guild? HAE. Whoa. I spooked him, I think. I don't know whether I spooked him or not, but hopefully not. Yeah, this game can make players rather paranoid. It has made me... Yeah, it has made me paranoid somewhat, you know, especially when I'm out in the wild. You can see it in a lot of my videos when I'm traveling. I get very paranoid when I'm traveling, and especially if I see another player, I get, you know, extra, you know, yeah, extra spooked, and you know, I would try and get away as quick as I can. But yeah, another thing to watch out for, and if you don't know this already, is that if you're in a guild, then your guildmates can attack you and steal from you and kill you without penalty. So another thing to be aware of is, yeah, think twice before you decide to join a guild, because when you join a guild, you're basically putting yourself, nullifying all the guard protections that would that you'll be entitled to if you were a solo player. You know, if one of your guildmates or an enemy guild player decides to attack you. Now, if a guild that is not at war with your guild, if they attack you, then if I'm not mistaken, the guards will respond and they will take out the aggressor. But if your guild is at war with another guild, or if you're in the same guild and one of your guildmates decides to attack you and kill you or steal from you, then there's nothing you can do about it. You can either fight them off, or, you know, try and... Oh, nice weapon. Try and get some sort of... maybe try and get your guild leader to do something about it, or something like that. But basically, think carefully before you join a guild. And be careful which guild you join, because not every guild has the same sort of goals. You know, some guilds might be PvP oriented, and some guilds might be PvE, and some guilds might be crafting oriented, or, you know, transporting oriented. There's all kinds of guilds, and there are some guilds that are primarily financial in their goals. I think there's a player. His name is Ruben Ibu. I can't remember how to pronounce his name, but Ruben Ibaruri. I think that's how you pronounce his name. He's in a guild which is called... I can't remember his guild now. It's been such a long time ago since I last looked at his guild tag. But yeah, there are some guilds that exist solely to you know, for financial gain. And they do that by loaning money to other players, and they give them interest in return. And that's something that that I think Ruben has come up with. You know, it's not something that the game has an official mechanic that supports that, but you know, because this is a sandbox game, a lot of players, they come up with all kinds of ways to play the game, and Ruben has come up with a very clever way. And he's basically running his own bank and his own financial, you know, money lending service, you know, to loan people money and to get you know, to tax them, or, you know, or maybe, you know, he would ask players to invest in his business, and he would give them interest in return. He would give them you know, like a percentage of the money that they've lent him. So that's a very clever way to play the game, and you know, I'm really glad every time when I see players come up with all kinds of ingenious ways to play the game, and that reminds me of a bridge that this guild has built. I'm not sure which guild built it, but it's basically a artificial bridge that was built using TC structures. They use keep walls and you know, siege ramps to form a artificial bridge with a walkway, and I've used it I think twice now, and I love that bridge. You know, it's just an example of how clever, you know, people can be, and how this game really does allow people to create things according to what they want to see in the game, and rather than playing a theme park playing a theme park game where you know, everything's been laid out for you, and you have no way to affect the way things are in the world. But you know, in a sandbox game, it's different. And so I think I've covered quite a bit in this video. So I want to just end this video by encouraging new players to, basically be a bit more thoughtful. You know, think. You know, use your brains, use your wits to figure out how you can survive in this very harsh and very unforgiving world that I also have been playing for many years. What are these people doing? Flash of light. Oh, hello. Spacious bag. Oh. Okay, I appreciate it. Okay, so he's I do come across very generous and very kind players from time to time in this game. They give me things. I wonder if I can wear it actually. I might just give it a try. He says I can't wear it, but enjoy it anyway. Yeah, I probably won't be able to wear it. It's probably, it's definitely. Well, actually, would I be able to wear it? Let me just try. No, no. No, the weight icon has already appeared. So no, I can't wear it. But thanks anyway to Flash of Light for giving me this set. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I might just put it away in my bank, in my armory, and I don't know. Might have a use for it later, next time. Alright, have I put everything back on? This could be it. Okay, so yes. Okay, so I think this is where I'll leave it. A lot of players now. There's a lot of players today, or tonight. But anyway, I think this is where I'll leave it. So thank you for watching, and hope that if you're new, that you've learned something from this video. I know this is not exactly a PvP video about how to PvP, but I do hope that for those of you who are new, or maybe even if you're not new, but you are wanting to learn about how to survive a bit better, then I hope that you've gained something from this video. And so yeah, I'll just put away my armor. So thank you for watching, and hope that you can please like, comment, subscribe, and share. And I do hope that if you can also consider supporting me on Patreon. There's a link in the description below. I would really much appreciate that. And if you're a regular on my channel, or if you like what you see, then please subscribe. I would really appreciate if you subscribe to my channel. I'm hoping to get to 1,000 subscribers, and so if you can help me get to that, reach that goal, then maybe I should put it in the bag. So I'll put it in the bag. So yeah, if you can help me get to 1,000 get to 1,000 subscribers, then yeah, I would really appreciate that. So thank you very much for watching, and hope to see you in the next video next time. So this is Fun Gaming Connoisseur, and yeah, take care and have a good one.